That means that property, that real estate property that everybody calls as an asset, is by definition a liability. When a property All right, so another question here. My name is Ola, coming to you live from myEmpirePRO. So this person says, what I don't understand is, why would a person be willing to sell their property for $42,000 when it's actually worth $100,000? That's an interesting question. It's funny how some people come into learning real estate wholesaling, real estate investor, and they have questions that they typically in other worlds will have answers to. Okay, and I believe this is one of them. Okay, but I'm not hating, I'm just here to answer the questions. Okay, why would a person be willing to sell a property for $42,000 when it's actually worth $100,000? There's multiple reasons for that. Okay, first of all, there's an assumption that your financial status is that person's financial status. Okay, that person is in a space where they could afford to hold on to $100,000 house. You have to understand, for every $100,000, $1 million home, $300,000 houses that's out there, for everyone that somebody holds on to, it costs a certain amount of money to hold on to it. Okay, so like this camera is sitting on a car right now. It costs a certain amount of money to hold on to this car, to own this car. Does that make sense? I don't care if it's paid off. I don't care if it's paid off free and clear. Okay, at the very minimum, I have to pay some kind of registration fees every year to the DMV, to the motor vehicle department, right, to own this car and to be able to use this car legally. If you're in a developed country, in a developed township, anywhere, there are certain taxes that you have to pay for owning certain things. Okay, even when you go pay retail, there's taxes that you pay for owning stuff, because basically we have platforms that we use commonly that has to be paid for to maintain it so it doesn't deteriorate, right? So in the same token, real estate, if you own $100,000 home, right, it costs money to hold on to it. It costs money, and the money to hold on to $100,000 home may be the reason why the person will be willing to sell for $42,000. That's one reason. Okay, let me give you another scenario. Okay, a person came to me one time and said, hey, they're giving away these houses for $1. They're giving away houses for $1, $0, blah blah blah, at the New York City. I said, well, that's good, that's all good and nice, but what's the holding cost? What does it cost to hold on to this property? Because it's not going to be free to hold on to this property. No, it's not. It's going to cost a certain amount of tax dollars, okay, to hold on to such properties. It's going to cost a certain amount of money in taxes to own such properties. So I did a quick math for that person. I said, listen, if they gave you this house for free, you still have a $1,300 per month obligation on this house. Am I making sense? Now, in other words, you better be in a position to make that asset. It's a $100,000 asset, right? You better be in a position to make it perform. Because if it's a non-performing asset, then you're screwed for owning the property. And that right there can become a good reason to get rid of a property. A good reason to get rid of a $100,000 property for $42,000. It just depends on how deep in the hole, how deep in trouble your situation is. Are we making sense? All right. Sorry for the noise. Sorry for the noise if it's bothering you, but hopefully the mic helps turn a lot of those off. Okay. So let me go back to what I'm saying. The question is this: why would a person want to sell $100,000 worth of property for $42,000? One of them is the holding cost. It costs money to hold on to $100,000 houses. Like even $100,000 in cash, if somebody gave it to you, see, a lot of questions like this comes from not understanding how money works. If somebody gave you $100,000, a bag of $100,000, right? it costs money to hold on to that money and put it under the pillow. How do I know? It's something called inflation. Inflation, okay? For every second you live, for every second that you have this $1 in your pocket, it's declining in value. That means it costs money to hold on to it, right? So you go put this in the savings and it start yielding 0.25% per year, right? It's still declining in value because inflation rate is higher than 0.25. Okay? If you have a house, $100,000 house, it costs money in taxes to hold on to the house. In addition to that, the house can devalue too, depending on what part of the cycle, in a recession cycle you're in. The house can decline in value. I'm hearing no kind of cricketish noise behind here, but I think it's those things on the tree, right? So it costs money. It can cost money to hold on to a property, and that money, if that property is not bringing in enough income, if it's not serving enough purpose in your life to bring in enough money, it's not offsetting its own cost of holding on to it, that means it's taking money out of your pocket. That means that property, that real estate property that everybody calls as an asset, is by definition a liability. When a property becomes a liability, yes, that will often be the right time to offload that property and to get rid of the property, even at, yes, more than 60% of what the property is actually worth. So when you say a property is worth a certain amount of money, it's based on the productivity of the property. It's not based off of just the fact that it's a real estate property. Okay? It's not just based off of your ownership. Your ownership can become a liability for you depending on the full-blown scenario around you. Do you have enough? You own a house that you live in. If you own a house that you live in, if you're paying $2,300 on that house, on the mortgages, on the PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and typically in that area you would pay $900, that's taking money out of your pocket. It's going to be hard for you to monetize that situation properly in your bank account, and you may be better off getting rid of property. And you may be time strapped where you have to get rid of the property within a certain amount of time. If not, you're in trouble. Depending on everything else you have going on in your financial life, you may be desperate enough to have to pawn the house. That's the word. So it's not new. It's not a new thing in real estate. It's not just in real estate where you could sell things for less than what they're worth. People do that in daily life and other things. They go pawn their jewelry and things like that. There's pawn shops all around in any major city you go to where you could take your jewelry that's worth $1,200 and pawn it for, I don't know if that's the right word, but you get what I mean, for sell it for less than what it's worth because you're desperate to get rid of it so you can pay for other things that's going on in your life. You would sell, you will basically pawn those things for a $1,200 jewelry for $200 if you're desperate enough. If other things are happening in your life that you absolutely must get rid of this house, it's possible. So are we taking advantage of people? No, they will point it to somebody else anyway. Okay, they will basically, you're basically adding value to their life. They will basically they'll be suffering if you don't come into the picture to put this house under contract and get it assigned to an investor that can add value to the property. The idea is for you to add value to the property and make the property become a performing asset. In a developed country, if you don't have a performing asset, someone, a city, a township, a police power will take that thing away from you because everything needs to be productive, including human beings, including entities, including real estate properties need to be productive. It needs to be performing. If it's not performing, then we're all screwed. Okay? So no, it's not taking advantage of people. It's adding value to the marketplace. Yes, that person has a $100,000 home that is non-performing, so you take it away from them for $40,000. You add some value to it. You make some profit because you've added value into the marketplace, and then yes, that person did not lose because the reason why they're willing to sell was because $40,000 was going to serve their life in that moment in time. So value is in the eyes of the beholder, meaning the person that's acquiring the value. Okay, sometimes a person who has a $100,000 home cannot see that value because that property is not serving that purpose of $100,000 in their life, in their personal life. So it's an assumption that value is equal everywhere. That's an assumption that value is equal everywhere, and that's not true. Okay? So value is one of the key ways for you to add value. Adding value, the more value you add into the marketplace, the more money you're going to make, is the first 3 chapters of Smart Real Estate Wholesaling. You will understand it more if you read it at least 10 to 15 times. The book is available for free. If you want, it's also available right now on Amazon. Very soon it's going to be available on audible.com. But on this channel it's available as well too. So just go ahead and get the book for free. And also, if you want a paperback of the book, it's also available on Amazon. It's a book that you need to have handy. Okay, personally I would have the book handy. And as a matter of fact, speaking of having it handy, this is the book I'm talking about. You need Smart Real Estate Wholesaling. We covered this in the first 3 sections. It's large print. It's a very easy read, so you need to get your hands on it. All right, so that's all I have for you. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.